Good evening, troops. Welcome to the latest edition of the Endless Celts Podcast, episode 124 now, which is a bit mental, mind-blowing, but happy Friday night. Your weekend starts here. Don't worry, all the housewives out there, because I'm stepping in, but the housewives' favourite's still in, the handsome Stephen's still here. How you doing, Stephen? All right?
All good, mate. All good. As you said, episode 124. I can also a big shout out to our first ever members of the Endless Celts Podcast: Kenny McCardle, Danny Boy 67, Kaiser, and Kevin 14. Absolutely fantastic. And as we said last week on the show, it's absolutely to become a member. It's brilliant to see people taking advantage of that. So as you said, Friday night starts here with us.
Bonkers. Also, our resident poet, our fountain of knowledge, Tony, is with us this week as well. How are we doing, Tony?
I'm all good, mate. Well, all good. Who needs the Celtic website to model the new strip when we've got our very own William Dobbin looking resplendent in the new kit, I have to say. And it's all good to be back. It's been a pretty mad week for us. Obviously, John fresh out his courtroom battles with YouTube, and then he was, ready for square going with his cousin live here on Monday night. I didn't know if I was watching a football show or an Endless Celts UFC crossover event, but it was all a good laugh, wasn't it? So all good to go. We're back at Celtic Park tomorrow, buzzing.
Man, if you've not seen it yet, guys, get on Monday's episode. There's a few fireworks. It's brilliant, man. John and Stephen need to just get a room and just have a wee winch and a cuddle, because right, let's get stuck in. The first our pre-season game there on Wednesday night against Banik Ostrava, wasn't it? What an atmosphere, by the way. Wasn't it a friendly match? Was it? It was like a European qualifier. The atmosphere was brilliant. I think it was because of their centenary year, and it was a celebration and all the rest of it. Oh, it was magic. I've never we go to away games in the SPL and there's no an atmosphere like that. That's it was no a magic game and brilliant game to watch. Again, barrel of the goals is the norm in our pre-season so far. I'll just dive right in. The first goal, we conceded as usual. First goal wasn't great defending, but we'll move on to the second goal, which was lovely. And I'll come to you, Tony, because it was a lovely bit of work for Forrest into Kyogo, and I just want to touch on Forrest a wee bit, because I feel like he's had quite a lot of minutes so far this pre-season, more than most, I would suggest. Do you think that's something that's going to be a factor going forward? Do you think he's going to get a lot more first-team action this season? I know he was injured a lot last season, but do you think he's going to feature more than we first thought? I think everybody would imagine the front three starting first would be Kyogo, Jota and Maeda possibly, but I think we've seen a lot more of Forrest, so I think it's quite interesting. You think he might play a more prominent part?
I think he will, Wally, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, he was just coming back into things, into some action just at the tail end of last season. He obviously... Similar, I know we're going to touch on Julian later on, but I think maybe Forrest was it's a similar kind of situation where he couldn't feature too much because Ange was just not wanting to interrupt the status quo too much until the league was over, and even in Phil. But I think when he came on at the tail end of last season, he looked like he was getting back to match sharpness. He obviously was fantastic the day down at Livingston when he got the goal that day as well that really sealed the 3 points. And on the back of that, he's obviously been given a 3-year contract, and getting featured a lot in pre-season. So it looks like Ange has got a lot of big plans for him, which is absolutely fantastic because, as we've discussed on here before, he's no one can ever doubt his contribution to the club so far. But there is where he's sitting at the moment. If the next 3 years, as we hope, prove to be as successful as his previous years at the club, he could very well retire as the most decorated player in their history. So yeah, I'm definitely eager to see him on the pitch doing what he does best more than often than not this year.
Definitely, I agree. I think he's looked sharp as well. I think he's looking quite trim and he's bulked up a bit. So hopefully he gets his fitness back properly, and we see a bit more of him this year, and it's another great option to have. I think you're bang on with a 3-year deal, which they're not going to give him that if he's just going to be a bit part player. So I think he's a big part of Ange's plans. I'd like to hear Stephen actually a wee bit about Forrest, because he was tail end of last year saying he was done, a bit like a few other members of the squad at the moment. like after seeing 20 minutes of Julian, that's him out the door. So Forrest, what do you think, mate?
He'd be a good backup option, the Abada. I think he's not going to be playing first choice this season. I think Abada has cemented that position. Not only has he done it for Celtic, he's also produced with Israel on the international stage as well. So we have to take that into account. Forrest, I think you're right, though, William. He looks trim. He looks far more sharper than he did towards the end of last season. Obviously, a full pre-season under Hans Postecoglou helps with that. But again, the goal, as you said, I thought him and Juranovic worked well together down the right. Juranovic poked the ball back to him and he put it in. Kyogo again finished 2-2 games for him in pre-season. But I mean, I know you're trying to tap me into some corridor here, William. I'm
actually quite surprised you said Abada's going to be. So is Abada going to make the first 11? Starting 11
easy.
This year? So who you
100%.
dropping then? Jota, Maeda?
Forrest?
What about Jota or Maeda? Or are they?
See,
you drop one of them?
This is the thing, right? This is the thing, right? Now we're going right down this list, right? I mean, if you're looking
I'm only talking about the first goal.
If you're looking at the right hand side, right, you're looking at Forrest, Abada, Jota. We all know Jota at the moment we think works better on the left, but Maeda plays there. So effectively, you're going into the season with the front three: Jota, Kyogo probably, and Maeda. But I think behind that would be Abada, and then you're talking Forrest, the third choice. Now that's not kind of me slanting on him. As Anthony said, he has the possibility to be the most decorated player in Celtic's history when he retires, and hopefully that comes at the end of his 3 years and he stays with us all his career because his experience is vital to the team. Like people like Abada, Jota can only learn from guys like that, and you got Harry Kuehl in the mix as well, who plays similar positions. I'm just coming merely from the point that the kind of, as like they did with Julian and kind of got fucking UFC'd and slamming each other, like, but it's a point that I can see on the pitch. I think Forrest kind of tails away. There's no like final bit in him to go that 60, 70, 80 minutes. He played well, but I do think Abada for me would be over him and Jota on the right hand side.
Fair enough, mate. I'll come right back to you because the third goal was a thing of beauty. Matt O'Reilly, and I know we'll touch on him a wee bit more later on as well because there's a lot of people shouting that he's going to be player of the year this year and he's going to be a pivotal part of what we're going to do this year going forward. And I thought he was, hey Robert, mate, I thought he was excellent again. His goal was fantastic, wasn't it? And it's that position in between the defence and the midfield that he's picked up, and it's a fantastic strike, Stephen. What did you think of the goal, and also how him in pre-season so far? He's looked very dangerous, isn't he?
Oh, Matt O'Reilly, he's a baller, like, isn't he? 1.5 million from MK Dons. Flip Miller ringing the police, looking that back again. He's unbelievable. I think we were thinking about Tom Rodgers leaving and it was emotional and things, but I think Matt O'Reilly stepped up. He's come into pre-season. He's featured against Vienna, featured against Banik Ostrava, and that goal. I mean, the first goal against Rapid Vienna in his first game was good, but that goal was just even better from a similar position. The way he took it and bump into the left-hand side of the net past the goalkeeper. He's so elegant on the ball. Do you know what I mean? He takes it in. He doesn't panic. He played a good part in the first goal as well. Kind of chopped it back. The players thought he was going to go forward. He chopped it back into that position for the goal end to come. I think he's going to be a main player in that midfield. Like, and you got the likes of Turnbull there as well, and they're both fantastic ball players. And Matt O'Reilly, he sees things that others can't. And I think it's vital. When you look at Kyogo, you look at Maeda, they're making them darting runs. Players like Turnbull and O'Reilly will find him 9 times out of 10. And he's only going to get better, in my opinion. And Liverpool, we're watching them for 5 years, basically building up their database. So there's definitely a player in there. We've took him. And you can see the end result in the distance, can't you? Obviously not so far coming now. Hopefully not next season, keep him for another couple of years. But you can see the pay signs coming. You can see the pay signs coming from England or wherever it may be. Sadly, played a blinder this one. Like,
definitely. I think you made some great points there. I was going to come to Tony as well and say, I was going to actually touch on the partnership with Kyogo, because I noticed a few times in the game, Kyogo's making the runs and O'Reilly's trying to look for him, and he's definitely got that pass in him. I think that partnership could be really pivotal for us this year as well. And just to touch on again what Stephen said as well, I'd like you to comment on, Tony, was that it's like we've lost Rogic. A big loss for us. Last year it was kind of one or the other in the starting 11 anyway. It was either O'Reilly or Rogic. So I feel like O'Reilly is going to step in, and it's his position to own now. But we've got Turnbull, who's returned for injury last year, and he's another one that I think is fantastic in that position. And I know there's been reports of him leaving West Ham for 10 million, whatever. I would keep him. I think he's been fantastic for us in the past, and I think sometimes when somebody gets a long-term injury, fans can be a bit fickle and forget how talented they are because they've not seen him for so long. This guy is magic, isn't he? So, first of all, O'Reilly and Kyogo matching up, and then how pivotal do you think O'Reilly is going to be going forward this season?
I think you absolutely will be. I mean, just touching on the goals to start with, Willie, because I say, apart from the goals and one or two other incidents, I didn't actually see much of the game on Wednesday because I was at my laddies match. But I have seen the goals, and he took it absolutely brilliantly. I mean, the goalkeeper was a wee bit to one side, but even then, he still got enough on it to get it round him. So it's an absolutely tremendous finish. But in terms of his partnership with Kyogo as well and others, like you say, that's the whole benefit of having this pre-season where we don't have to be, we're not anxious about, having to go to, all far-flung corners of the continent, playing teams that we've never heard of with 40 million at stake. That money's already banked, and we, that this entire tour has been all about, getting guys to build relationships with each other, build that team spirit, build that understanding between each other, and Kyogo and him, they just look absolutely fantastic together on Wednesday night, and I think he has got all the opportunity now to go and really make that place his own. But you're absolutely bang on. He's going to face a hell of a competition for David Turnbull. I can remember you say about the transfer rumour with West Ham. It seems to die down and then it comes back up again, such as the Twitter sphere that we live in these days. But I'm very much like yourself. I'd far rather have David Turnbull on the books than a few extra quid in the bank. I think he's a terrific player, and to get someone of his ability, we've been talking off air about that. There's no obvious SPL players out there just now, especially creatively, that could come in and do a job for him. A few years ago when he was at Motherwell, it was, I often say, Stevie Wonder could see that this guy was the next great talent coming through, and we should have been pulling everything, doing everything we could to get him on the books. And obviously with the medical and stuff, there was a bit of a hiccup there for a year, but he came in under Neil Lennon, and he was one of the few shining lights in the disastrous 10 season. It looked like he was perhaps looking a little bit lightweight at the start of last year, but he came up to speed very quickly under Ange, and since he's came back, he had a great game, last game of the season against his former club Motherwell, and I think, like O'Reilly, I think the two of them will play a massive part in what we hope to be will be another successful year.
It's great that we're sitting talking about the options we've got, because I mean, this time last year, the pre-season, Moffat was starting every game, and it was all the youth, and we were struggling to bring together a first 11. In all honesty, weren't we? And this year we've got an absolute, like, the list we've got to choose from is it's magic. It really, really is. I'm so excited to see what Riley's got to do this season coming. So in between the third and the fourth goal, there was the old toilet roll debacle because Banik were shiting ourselves. We're on a pitch after we scored a couple of goals, and they thought, "Oh shit, here we go." But then the fourth goal came in. It's we had our changes, and Big Gio with another one-touch finish, and what a finish it was, Tony. It was a bit Zlatan-esque, I thought, when it came in. It was a matter of just getting a part of your body on it and directing it goalwards. The options we've got, like I've said, and it's a different player for Kyogo. Kyogo's movement was great first half, I thought, as well. But just getting balls in the box and his finishing is just magic as well, isn't it? It's a tough job if you're playing one up top to choose between these two guys. And I know we talk about it a lot, Ross talks about it a lot, where it's about playing the fixture, and it's great to have these two options, isn't it? And Gio is he's a born finisher.
He's nowhere safe for a keeper or a defence when you're playing against this guy. Like you say, he can look quite unorthodox at times, but that has been, as we've seen last year, second half of the season, it can be very effective. Some of the goals he scored. But yeah, he must be an absolute nightmare to play against. And I think the goal that he scored on Wednesday was it was similar, I felt, to the effort that he tried to do against Rangers in the 3-0 game, when there was great couple of interchanging, and they put the ball across, and the ball was behind him, and he twisted his body really quickly and just got him on it. And it was a great save for Alan McGregor, to be fair to him, that night. I mean, Giacomakis didn't get on the score sheet that night, but he was still probably my man of the match that night, along with Atati. he was absolutely brilliant. And I think, again, he's looking leaner, he's looking fitter. I think he's going to be, like you say, an absolute baller this year as well. It's a good problem to have, which of the two do you start up front? But by the same token, as we've said, we might see it before the season starts. We've not quite tried the experiment yet of playing the two of them. I think if you're an opposing defender coming up against that, you'd be as well just staying in the dressing room because you've absolutely no chance. But and it's not to say that we might even still add in the striking department as well. So yeah, we've certainly not looked lacking in firepower, shall we say?
Definitely not. And like I say, they're both different players, but it's so great to have that option. I mean, the goals that Kyogo scored in the cup final last year, Gio's not doing that, but Kyogo's not scoring that goal that Gio scored on Wednesday night. So it's great, and like even the Messis of this world, they don't play 10 out of 10 every game. So it's so great to have that option, isn't it, Stephen? We've got two strikers here, and I think this is what we've harped on about when it was Lenny's last season where we were dreadful. Whereas we always talk about the fact that now there's 2 or 3 players for each position, and they're all as good, equally as good as each other, and they're all fighting for that position. Whereas back then it was like a nailed on 11, and nobody was taking the spot. So this is another option we've got with these two. They're both fighting for that number 9 jersey, as it were, and they're both equally good options, aren't they?
Oh, they're both spectacular players, both different, as you rightly pointed out, in terms of what they can offer. But can I point out as well to the chat, again, the interaction is fantastic with loads of people in it. Kenny McCardle, Shay67, Patrick McLaughlin, Ryan Kelly, all getting involved in the debate. It's great to see. And again, big shout out to the guys who became our members for the first ever time. It's an option for everyone. If you want to check that out, 99p a month just to support the page and help us upgrade some things, as you can tell by my computer screen or laptop or whatever. It gets a bit hazy sometimes, but hey, what can we do? But I mean, Giakoumakis, he's a cracking player, and I think all of his goals bar one's a one-touch finish, isn't it? And it's just that instinctive attitude that like to strike the ball when needed, get his body across the defender. And someone in the comments said about Chris Sutton, he could be our new Chris Sutton. I totally agree, albeit Chris Sutton obviously had a better touch, but the physicality, the presence, just to be in them right areas at the right time. And he comes on as well. He's not huffing the Kyogo's starting. He's not making a fuss. He gets his goal. He goes straight over to Ralston and thanks him for the assist. Them two seem to have a good connection going on there as well. It's great to see. But what they can offer, and it's frightening to think about them playing together. And yes, it might not work, but the thought and the kind of fantasy in your head, it could be you could be smashing teams up, like quite simply, if you have Kyogo playing off Giakoumakis or Kyogo to the left of him in some games, and it's absolutely fantastic. And as you rightly said, when Lennon was in charge, I think we purposely done our lineup predictions wrong just to get a bit of flavour into it, because we knew he was starting every week, week in, week out. But just having Giakoumakis and Kyogo, maybe possibly another dad into the mix there, but again, Postecoglou will sort that out himself. But just at the minute, they're both scoring. What more do you need?
I know. It is a scary prospect that you're saying about playing the two of them. I think that the Sutton thing is quite... see, for me, like all-rounded, I think Gio's probably like... I'm not saying he's a better player than Chris Sutton. I'm not saying that at all. I think Chris Sutton was fantastic. But for me, Gio's probably a better finisher. He's quicker. He's a bit more well-rounded. And Henrik always says about... And he played with some of the world's best, and he talks about Big Sutton being his best partner. And there's a few that are saying that about Big Jan Vennegar. Yeah. I think Jan Vennegar was just a battering ram. I think Gio's much more than that. I think he's much more. I think he's much better technically. I think he's quicker. I think his movement's better. I think he's just a fantastic... I can't believe we got him for peanuts as well. Came as a top goal scorer in a league for a relegated side, which beggars belief. The partnership it is a scary thought. I don't think Ange will ever play two up top. I think if it is going to play the two of them together, Kyogo will have to come in off the left, or I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's going to be, because I don't think Kyogo will play number 10 either. So I think if they're going to play together, I think that would have to be the way he's going to play, because I don't think Ange is going to change his style. But it's a very, very scary thought, and the fact that we've got these options is, like I say, this time last year we were struggling with Moffat up top himself, and now we've got these options. But I mean, Tony's right. Strikers, we could be getting another one in. The window's not shut. We're going to go on and talk about transfer rumours later on, but if you're coming into the team and you've got these two ahead of you, that's not a great prospect for yourself, is it? You're not trying to break into that team, but we'll touch on that later. The fifth goal, slack passing again, and we ended up conceding again. I'll come back to Stephen because I know he likes to be negative about our defence. And slack passing again, conceded again. Is it an issue for you? Do you think it's a problem going forward that we conceded? Because as much as we've scored a barrel load of goals this pre-season, we have conceded 5 in the last 2. And I know it's pre-season, but what do you think about the defence? And I know it's a lot of shuffling and changing. It's not the settle back four either, but is it something that's a concern for you? Or is it
I think it's...
This is Andrew's style and this is what we do. We just score more than you and that's it.
I think it's a concern always that you're conceding goals and kind of live in that fantasy land where if you score more, you'll win, blah, blah, blah. It's never going to work out like that. You need to have some sort of plan in place to fix the kind of issues that we need. I mean, that goal you're talking about, I think your wee man, Bosun Lowell, got caught out with a slack pass in behind him and their striker kind of outpaced them. Watching it back again today, that's what I thought of it anyway. In terms of the defence and whole, I think we do need a couple of new additions. Burnaby's going to take a while to settle in. I can kind of gather that. He's great going forward, but his positional sense at left back isn't great at the moment. But again, he's learning how to play that inverted fullback role and come into the midfield with the ball. Like Greg Taylor can do really well at the minute. It's all, as you guys rightly pointed out, it's hard to buy an out-and-out replacement for him instead of getting into the big money territory. So Burnaby will take a while to settle. Julian, you know my opinion. I just don't think he's going to cut it. He just looks slow and laboured to me. In all the games I've seen him, and I know you've rightly pointed out he played a couple of good passes, a couple of good tackles, but again, in this whole argument, the people are getting minutes and they're getting minutes on their legs. I mean, academy players are getting minutes, but they're not going to feature going forward. Julian, for me, is putting himself into the shop window. I think that Ange, if he really wanted to see what he was made of, he would have put him in more last season. He didn't do that because he was fit from the turn of the year, so there was plenty of opportunity to give him a game here and there, but he didn't. You look at Urugide, I don't know, the first game against that amateur or semi-professional side, he looked good. I openly said he looked really good, but in the game against Rapid, I just thought he got found wanting. He was a mistake for one of the goals at the back post, much like Juranovic was in that game against Banik Ostrava. He got caught out at the back post, but it was his first game back, so you had to cut him some slack in that kind of prospect. But there is some surgery for me that definitely needs done for that back four. Because if you're playing European football, now bear this in mind, we're not going to be playing against a Motherwell every week or a St Mirren. We'll be playing against a Real Madrid, a Liverpool, a Shakhtar Donetsk. And if you make them basic mistakes, it's curtains before you even start. You need to cut that out of your game.
Fair enough. We're going to talk more about these sort of players later on anyway. And I'm surprised that the first 3 names for the Champions League, Shakhtar Donetsk was in there, but that's...
I know, but we all... That's like Shakhtar Donetsk. Shakhtar Donetsk is a team.
Those European behemoths.
I know. It's just funny that you went Real Madrid, Liverpool, and then you bypassed every other top European team and went to Shakhtar.
That point I was trying to make. Thanks, Stevie boy. Well,
yeah, but a good team will punish us with CCV and Starfelt at the back.
Of course, but they're not going to make laboured mistakes like that. Do you know what I mean? They've been trained in this system.
Starfelt made a few laboured mistakes last year. CCV did it also. I think you're being a bit harsh, but we'll go into it later on. Next goal was Gio in again. Another lovely strike, and you can't bring your granda in it and just say that. You well said to your granda, eh? Granda, by the way. You're all giving me pelters about Julian. Gun, you need to give us a comment, granda, and just back me up. The next goal, Gio, another good save, and Abada in the right place at the right time again. That's no coincidence. He'd done it numerous times last season. He's just he's another one that's just he's a proper goal scorer for the wide areas. Tony, he's going to be massive for us again this year, isn't he? And he's not even, again, we'll talk about the first 11s. He didn't feature much when we had a fully fit squad last year, but he definitely filled in when we didn't, and he scored. He was 3rd or 4th top goal scorer for us last season, and he's still a young boy. He's what a prospect he is, and again, like I said, right place, right time. No coincidence, is it?
No, it's not. You're absolutely spot on, Will, about the fact that this isn't the first time we've seen it. He is one of these kind of instinctive players. He just wants to be in and around the box. If there's a loose ball to be sort of latched onto, and he's put the ball in the back of the net again. And I know it's obviously, in terms of the result, it's a meaningless fixture, but it kind of put the game to bed. We knew we were going to win it. As I said, results don't really matter this time of season, but it's always great to see. And I think it was part of the whole sort of goal of this Austrian tour was to play against, not the first game, obviously, that's just getting back on the park, but Rapid Vienna treated it like it was a Champions League qualifier. And obviously the team we were playing on Wednesday as well, they were quite adamant, they were there to have a competitive football match.
Yep.
And we turned up, and I think, like you say, I also think Abad will feature a lot more this year as well. He's obviously got another year under his belt, but he's still young, so we have to, give him that kind of breathing space. And he's not going to be tremendous every single week that he plays. He's going to have quiet games. But the good thing is now that we obviously do have, you've got, like we've said, we've got Jota on a permanent deal now. I don't actually think that Maeda's been out on the right a couple of times as well, and obviously we've got James Forrest, so a plethora of options if he's got any niggling injuries or he goes off the boil. So it's the benefits of having a real depth in squad, that there's always a variety of options, and opposing managers don't know what's coming next, and which can only bode well for us.
Definitely, mate. And I'm glad the Egyptian Kings came in with that comment, because he's led me right into my next point, and that was I'm going to come straight back to Tony, because I know he fucking hates goalkeepers. Joe Hart, like Davy Marshall at Euros, standing 40 yards out. And to be fair to him, Siegrist was the same. So it's obviously the gaffer's, it's his advice. That's what he wants us to do. And I can understand in a way, because the way he wants to play, if there is a team pressing us, it's like an extra man there. It's like an extra centre half there to pass the ball in. And it's obviously, well, I think it is, Angie's looking for that extra man there so that we can create that space. He comes and presses. We've got that spare man in both, and a couple of passes, and we're away in a counter attack. That's the only thing I can see. But obviously, it's putting the shiters up everybody. Somebody had a shot. I think somebody had a pot at goal for 40 yards at one point. Yep. What do you think about it, Tony? Does it give you the heart palpitations?
It does a bit. Similar to I understand why we do the passing back as well. And I understand there's going to be more errors at the start of the season because everyone's just kind of getting back up to speed. But if that is the way that we want to do it, then we have to be, switched on 100%. Because, like you say, the guy had an effort when Joe Hart kind of, when he was out of position. If that is, a fully match sharp guy, or anyone at the Champions League level, that you're a goal down before you even start. It's not. I like goalkeepers, and near their goals where they should be. But I get that the whole sweeper keeper and having a ball playing goalkeeper. It's part of the modern way, and who am I to question guys like put the big Ange that actually does all these training drills all the time. But it's no good for the heart. But supporting Celtic rarely is, mate. It's true, it's never easy, but it's always worthwhile. That's but true, I think to be fair to Joe Hart, he definitely put me back on simmer with my feelings about goalkeepers, to say the least. Last year he had a fantastic season, but him and Siegrist, I think it's going to be a right cracking competition for the number one spot. Obviously, it's Hearts to lose. But Siegrist has come in, he's kind of impressed as well in pre-season, so it's good to know that the backup's there if needed.
Definitely, and I think Andrew's, he's not the type he's not bringing him in as a backup. He's bringing him in to push for that first 11, and if he does and performs well in training, there's no doubt in my mind Andrew would stick him straight in. Stephen, the keepers, I know you're dying to say something. You look at you, you're twitching. How you feeling? 40 yards outside their goal.
See, to be honest, right? You're bang on. Postecoglou said in his most recent press conference, this is a part of the game. Joe Hart came in late to the team, so he didn't get a chance to practice all this. So it must be a feature if Siegrist is doing it as well. He's obviously telling him to do so. And also, John, before I get into this, is said I'm ignoring comments defending Julian. I'm not ignoring it. I just know it's going to come back up later, and we'll talk about it again when transfers and stuff come up. So let's leave that there for now. But in terms of Joe Hart, I mean, being 40 yards out for a keeper like him, I don't think is great. We've seen that with a goalie. You can see that in pre-season there. His recovery speed was absolutely abysmal. There's faster glue sticks than him in terms of trying to get a ball back. I get, as you said, William, the playing that kind of free in that kind of position packs the midfield and packs them up further up the pitch 100%. Again, that's great if it works. But if you're playing a top level European opposition who've been looking at Celtic, who've been seeing the way they play, and they're like, he's always off his line by 40 yards. When you get the ball, ping it. Someone's going to get one in. And unfortunately, it's the way we're playing. Like my granddad who came up in the comments there, he hates it. He's like, he wants the keeper in the nets to save a ball. And that's it. Pure, plain and simple. But again, with this whole modern time playing football, like Pep started with, and in terms of playing the ball, tiki-taka from the back, the best sweeper keeper I've seen is Manuel Neuer for Bayern Munich. I think he's sensational at it. We don't have a keeper like that. But if Postecoglou wants to do it, Postecoglou's going to do it. He's the boss. William.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's obviously that's the way he's wanted to play, and that's the style. And like I say, I can see why he's wanted to drag out more players. And if he drags somebody out to press and Hart beats him or nicks it by him and gets a pass, that's us a man up when we're going on a counter attack, which could then lead to somebody else coming out and vice versa. So I can totally understand the logic behind it, but it doesn't help with the heart palpitations when it does happen. I mean, the game at Ibrox last year when we won 1-0, the first half an hour, there was about 3 or 4 occasions in the first, well, not even half an hour, the first 10 minutes where I was like, Jesus Christ, just get it up the park. And I think when Gio's on it is a good option to sometimes punt up the park. And I'm all for playing for the back, definitely all for playing for the back. That's football, and that's the style we want to play now. But there is occasions where you just need to get rid. Like
Paul nails it.
Oh, that's true. Aye, that's true. So let's move away from the Banik game and just let's look at that's the Austrian part of our pre-season over. We're at home come tomorrow, so pretty successful, I would say. Barrel load of goals. I think we're looking decent fitness-wise. That the high intensity in the press is there. And the last 2 games, the atmosphere is as close to a competitive game as I've ever seen in pre-season. So I think it's been definitely a successful period. What do you guys think? Do you think the high press, the intent, it's looking there? And I think one thing for me as well, Stephen, I'll come to you, is that it's similar to last season, is the number of different goal scorers we've had. It's not just one man we're counting on to score all these goals. It's all across the park, goals from everywhere. It's been great to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this whole tour, as you rightly said, just about getting fitness back in the legs, getting that kind of style out again, the press. I've seen it in the first game when with the Malistad team, when you crack open your beer, with the Malistad team from the 3rd division in Austria. God love them. Like, they must have wanted us to go home and crawl into their beds after that. And then against Rapid and the other team there, Ostrava, the atmosphere was fantastic. I tried to bring up atmosphere in the last podcast, but got ridiculed because fans make a difference to it. But you know what I mean. But I mean, like, it's just been really good.
You get ridiculed on this podcast, mate.
just the fitness and seeing different players scoring. O'Reilly getting back among the goals. Kyle coming back fit to bang into the new season. Maeda just looks as he done last season, just full of speed, full of pressing. You got Cameron Carter-Vickers coming back in a permanent contract. Jada, the club's got a good kind of boost from that. Coming back home tomorrow to play Blackburn, I can't actually wait to see the game, to be honest. It'll be on Premier Sports on TV, so it's even better instead of watching it on a dodgy stream. But yeah, it's all boding well. Like, I think overall the exercise in Austria has been well worthwhile. Far better than last season anyway, put it like that.
Well, yeah, nobody watches dodgy streams on Endless Celts Podcast. We've all
no.
We've all subscribed to Celtic TV. Tony, how do you feel about the pre-season so far? There's one point I'd like to hear the two of you. Do you think that, because it's been a lot of shuffling, nobody's been getting any more than 45 minutes an hour a game, which I understand pre-season. You're just trying to get the fitness back up, and 2, you want to have a look at everybody and see how they're playing and giving everybody a chance. But do you feel like there's maybe been a bit too much of that? Do you think there should have been maybe like our starting 11 that he has in mind, and then the fringe players get a half hour, or vice versa? Or do you think that the way he's done it's beneficial to the team and his thoughts going forward in the pre-season?
I think this is try to put it in like a sort of musicians type of way. I think like these games and this tour, you know, when before artists do like the big massive, you know, stadium tours or arena tours or whatever, they have like a couple of warm-up gigs. I think that's essentially what this tour's been. It's just about getting back in the swing of it. and I think that's why there has been a lot of chopping and changing. But I think as we get closer to that game against Aberdeen, I think a more settled side will start to sort of cement itself. But I'm certainly hopeful tomorrow. I think it might be a little bit more of the same tomorrow with it being at Celtic Park. But as I say, we've got a few more games to come before Aberdeen. I think we're away next week for Artur Boric's testimonial, aren't we? So I think, again, that'll be another step up in class and opposition as well. So I think, like I say, come nearer the time, I think the more settled side will sort of take shape. But I think at the moment it's a good idea to just I dare say obviously all the sports science and all that will come into it. It'll be a case of you can only play for so long to keep the chance of injuries to a minimum. But not minding the chopping and changing so far. But hopefully it doesn't do it. Come the night before the first game against Aberdeen, hopefully he'll know what he's going with.
No, I think you're right, mate. The only reason I make the point is because I want to see a bit of everybody as well. The only reason I make the point, Stephen, is for the likes of I'm going to use Julian as an example because he is my prime example. This guy gets thrown in and he's a centre half and he plays 20 minutes. And I don't obviously Ange sees him in training, so he knows what he's doing every day. But it's really difficult for him to show his worth in 20 minutes. He could not put a foot wrong and nobody would notice he was there. If it's Gio, for example, he comes on, scores a goal, but plays rotten, but gets half an hour. Everybody's praising him and thinks he's a world beater because he scored a goal. For a centre-half or for somebody else, I think it's really difficult in 20 minutes to show what he's worth, and fans like us then start to criticise and the rest of it. So that's what I was getting at, where I was saying a bit of the chopping and changing. Maybe I'd have liked to have seen a bit more of these guys against this stronger opposition. I know Julian and that played a big part in the first game, but that was, Faltic United would have gave us a better game than them that day. Like when I seen the starting lineup, that I was like, where the fuck are all the first team players? And then we banged 4 goals in 20 minutes. I was like, now I know why the first team players are playing, because this would have been scary. So,
Dunn.
First of all, what do you think? It's been too much chopping and changing, or are you happy that we're getting to see a bit of everybody, or do you think it should be? We're trying to get the fitness in it. We talk about this minutes thing that you and John keep fucking going on about. Do you think that the guys that are going to be in and about the first team should be getting the majority of minutes, and then we should just be seeing bits and bobs of the others, or how do you think it should be?
Well, just first of all, Patrick McLaughlin makes a great point. He says, I'm not so sure about that because the amount of games coming up before the World Cup, all the squad will be rotated and used to equal effect up until November, I imagine. I think that's a great point. But in terms of what you're saying, I like pre-season because it gives you a chance to see younger players coming up who could be the next in line, taking over from a player. Your new signings are coming in. It's a wee bit of excitement because pre-season, let's be honest, is boring otherwise if you have nothing to kind of, look at him. I've never seen him play before. He's actually quite decent. Can he make a step up? New signing Burnaby comes in. We're seeing him for 45 minutes. He looks good, obviously. And then Julian, you rightly said he came on for 20 minutes, but 10 minutes were up front alongside Jack O'Magnus because he never went back. But, I think, I like to see an equal spread, right? I like to see players get a chance, whether it's fourth choice keeper up to the first choice. And then, like Anthony said, once it gets past the crapper pre-season games when you're smashing teams, now you're going to Blackburn, Norwich, you kind of streamline it a bit, get the first team more involved, build up their fitness for the Aberdeen game coming up. And then obviously still dip in and out with the younger squad, bring them in too. But from now up until the start of the season, I like to see a wee bit more streamlined, a wee bit more settled, seeing who's actually going to form the starting lineup. Obviously, players could come in that time, but yeah, that's where I'm at. Start of pre-season, I love the rotation. Coming towards the end of it, I want to see who's going to be settled and going forward. Good point.
I think Anthony makes a good point with the whole musician thing. He's firing out all his songs now, and he's waiting to see what gets the best reception, and then that's what's going on the main tour. I like that, Tony, mate. So we've got Blackburn coming up tomorrow. Is there anybody that's impressed you so far, a standout so far this pre-season, Tony, that you want to see more of? Is there anybody that in the next few games you're wanting to see more of because you've not seen enough of them? What's your thoughts on that? Anybody stand out in particular?
In terms of, the first game's the only one I've been able to see right the way through. It's just been kind of extended highlights that I've been catching with the other two. I think and it's hard to kind of judge the first game because it was so one-sided. I'd like to see a wee bit more Gucci, just to kind of see it, once he's really up to speed, how he gets on. But as I say, that the first game tomorrow is obviously first game back at Parkhead. I think that's what everybody's really looking forward to. I'm definitely one of them. Me and my wee boy are going tomorrow, so really looking forward to it. So in terms of a selfish point of view, I want to see Bernabei start, because obviously he's the one kind of big new signing so far, and I would imagine Segrist might start tomorrow. Just the way that he's been rotating it might be a sort of Segrist and Bain. It'll be the two that feature tomorrow. But in terms of anyone, I don't think anyone in particular's been absolutely brilliant, because as we've discussed earlier, they've not had that in terms of just minutes on the pitch, they've not had that kind of time yet to really kind of stake a claim. But by the same point, I don't think anyone's really looked out of sorts either. So I might just throw one out there. I hope to see him a wee bit more, because I think this might be I hope he does do a Tony Ralston for last season. I would actually quite like to see Mikey Johnson feature a little bit more, and especially in the pre-season games. I know we say it every year, Mikey always looks great in pre-season, and then the blooming injury jinx hits again. But I think we're all agreed, regardless of what our thoughts are, that this is absolutely last chance saloon. So if he can do anything to stake a claim, then I'd be all for it. As I say, we know he's at the moment way down the pecking order, but that's what these games are for. He did all he could in the first game, so yeah, I'd like to see him at some point tomorrow, maybe.
I agree with Gucci. I think he's looked. I know he's not played them like everybody. Like that's the shuffle. I've not seen massive amounts of any one person. I personally, when O'Reilly got subbed off at halftime, he was devastated because he looked like he was just absolutely running the show, and I was just like, oh, just upload the highlights to Pornhub, and so I could just keep rewatching. But Gucci, for me, see when he first came in, I thought he was meant to be your hardy sitting midfielder, but he looks so technical. His passing range in that first, I know that was a pub team we were playing, but his passing was excellent. I think he's really going to fit in well in the team. And speaking to a few of the boys last week, they were saying that out of all the Japanese boys that came over, he was the one that was meant to be the top boy out of a lot of them. So I'm really interested to see what he can do this year. Stephen, same question to you. Coming up, anybody that you're looking forward to seeing? Anybody that you've thought the pre-season so far, except Julian, that's underperformed so far, and anybody you want to see that you've not seen as much of, or what are you looking for in the next couple of games, and specifically tomorrow? I think he'll go strong tomorrow. By the way, the first pre-season game at Parkhead, I think he'll go strong, and he wants to give the fans a few goals in the first half, and then he'll make the changes then. But what are you looking to see?
I mean, first of all, Gibson King with a great point here. Sorry to bring it back up again. I'd like to see Toby Oluwami, the goalkeeper, get a chance, because he's the future. He's the guy who's been on pre-season as well with Celtic, kind of looking up to Joe Hart. I would like to see that. I agree with you on that one.
Play on midfield. That's where Joe Hart and Segrist played last.
I mean, Kevin 14, I believe Calmac would have been rotation this year to keep him strong for the big games. Again, they're all great points coming in. Egyptian King, Gucci is really developing his confidence from this pre-season. Again, I think Anthony echoed that in terms of he wants to see more. I want to see more of him, because what we have seen, he looks assured, he looks calm, he can play a pass. He's really tenacious in the tackle. He just gets his leg round. Never rarely gives a foul away from what I can tell. Gets the ball and plays it simple. Fantastic. I would like to see a wee bit more of Bosun Lawwell, the centre-back, playing again. I think he's looked decent. He looks quick. He's a unit. Julian... No. Uragiri, I'll probably say 45 minutes of him to see if he can cut it again. Abada, get him in. O'Reilly, unbelievable. Just want to see him play again more and more. Hatate to come back from his injury, because he looked good up until then. But see, to be honest with you, I want to see them all, because you're back at Celtic Park. There'll be a good atmosphere. It'll be a good occasion. Get all the fans back in again and just enjoy it. Be brilliant.
So good being a tick man now, isn't it? Like before, if you had somebody drop out, even like on O'Neill's teams and stuff like that. See, for example, even Thompson or somebody dropped out, you'd be like, why is he not playing Thompson? Whereas in this team, whoever is dropping out, somebody else is coming in. You're like, I'm fine with that. I'm quite happy with this guy coming in. It's magic time to be playing. I quite like the Urhoghide question, because I've seen a lot of again, it's YouTube clips and all the rest of it for last year playing in the Belgian league, which isn't. I don't think it's a massive standard, like the drop in standard for the SPL. I don't think it's massive.
That's not.
And he's looked excellent there, playing it right back and centre. I like the thought of him at centre half. He was driving out with the ball, passing strong, quick. I think it's everything that Ange's philosophy is in a centre half, but he's not featured heavily, I would say. And somebody, I can't remember the name, but it was, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, somebody in the comments said about playing him in that centre midfield role at number 6. What's he saying? Exactly.
That's a good point.
Chris, man. Poor Chris. I agree, mate. That centre midfield role, number 6, I think that's like a possibility. When I seen that comment, forgive me, I can't remember who it was. If you're watching in again tonight, put it up. You mentioned it because you should deserve praise and you should probably be on this podcast because we talk fucking nonsense. But I think that's a decent option. But I think that Ange doesn't fancy him. And obviously he sees in training and he's far better than me at what he does. But what do you think, Stephen? I'll come back to you first. What do you think that he's an option? And why do you think we've not seen as much of him as we would have thought? The likes of Bosun is getting a chance, and I agree with you. I think he looks a decent prospect, and he's done well since he's came in. But why is he getting in more minutes there at centre half than the likes of Urhoghide?
I think he nailed it. Hans doesn't fancy him. I mean, in his contract for that club in Ostende in the Belgian League, where Jack Hendry, funny enough, went, there was an option to buy, but they just couldn't afford him. If that was undertook, he'd be away. There's no question about it. I think he has. I mean, centre back. As you said, he was playing there for that team. He looked decent. He drove with the ball. He looked like he had a good touch. What I seen in pre-season, the touch went back to when we first got him. Sometimes it's a confidence thing with these players coming back. They don't believe they're going to do it or they're going to make it. Urhoghide, let's be honest, Anne's described him as a warrior because he's played so many minutes, but nothing really else. He's like a fitness machine. Everything else doesn't seem to quite click for him. He doesn't have the composure, the touch, the strength. I'll give him. He has in that aspect, but his positional play again at right back, he got caught out of the goals. In centre half, he looks a bit shaky, a wee bit unsteady, unsure of himself. I don't think he'll get the chance. I think like Lawwell is ahead of him. I think Welsh is ahead of him. So he's already playing fifth fiddle there, to be honest, fifth choice. Let him go out again on loan because he's just going to rat away in our bench or our B team, to be honest.
Fair enough. I totally disagree with about 75% of what you said there, but fair enough. I think he totally has got composure. I think he has got a good touch, and his passing is decent. And I don't think he's a right back. I think that's maybe why his positional sense isn't great there. I think he's a centre half, and I think he's a. For me, what I've seen of him so far in pre-season, I would have had him ahead of Bosun, but that's just me. Stephen, the Tomlinson rant, it's either him or John, one of the fucking two of them. Anyway, let's go on to my favourite subject, and transfer rumours. We're going to have to talk about it because it's pre-season, and we're in the window, and we're coming up to the start of the season, and we've got a few in the door. It's a really interesting one. I don't think we've actually touched on it in the pod yet, and I think it's dead in the water now. But Tony, Jordan Larson, it's been talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's been a bit of a split in the support. It's the whole head ruling heart thing. Obviously, he's the king's son. I've not seen much of him as a footballer, so I can't comment on whether he's whether I think he's good enough or not. And I think the heart rules ahead sometimes when it's about him coming in. And this is what I hate about these rumours and that, because we don't even know Celtic have even spoken to him or anything. It could have been blown up by the media. It's easy enough to say, listen, he's the king's boy. He's available on a free transfer now. I know John was saying that he's obviously been a top talent because he's been at some decent clubs. He's capped for his country. He was on big wages wherever he is. And now the opportunity to get him in a free transfer is a no-brainer. I personally think we do need a third striker in case Kyogo or Gio get injured. I don't think Maeda's a striker. I think he's got our left wing nailed on. So I do think we need a third striker. So if it was on a free I think John's got a fair point when he talks about it's a no-brainer. But also, are you going to get in this team? If there is no injuries to the first two, is somebody like that want to come to the club? It's a really interesting one because, like I said, the head rule in the heart, people saying, oh, he's going to come in. I don't think if he came in, we would all be thinking it would ruin any sort of legacy he's got. It's as if he's a legend of the club already just because of what his dad done when he's here. It's absolutely ridiculous. But what do you think on the whole saga? And what was your thoughts on when you first heard that there was a possibility he was going to come in?
I think you got to look at it. I mean, to start off with, we all agree. I mean, it's if you're working on the marketing side, is Celtic. I mean, it's a marketing man's wet dream, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the son of the king coming home. You know, like you say, the shirt sales itself would pay his wages or signing on fee or whatever. So, you know, we certainly wouldn't have to worry about it on that front. Like yourself, Willie, I mean, I don't tend to watch much Russian football or Swedish football or whatever, but I that's a fair point, Charles. But I don't know. There's been some shite in the Russian league, to be fair.
That's true. The Gary O'Connor.
That's me on bit mad lads listening. But I can't say I've seen enough. Exactly, I can't say I've seen enough about him to be able to make a say like, oh, we absolutely should be pushing the boat out for him, or wouldn't touch him with a barge pole. I don't know one way or the other, based purely on ability. So my biggest worry was always, does it fall into, you know, I call it James McLean-itis? Are we only, is there just this demand to sign him based on, I mean, you don't sign James McLean for Celtic for football reasons. There's a big demand to sign him purely on the fact that he's, you know, very outspoken in his views in terms of how the British media and whatever, you know, try and portray him. He's not going to be anybody's, you know, mouthpiece or whatever. He speaks his own mind, and it's a view that I totally agree with. So he's well liked in that kind of way. But that doesn't mean to say I want him displacing Callum McGregor in the middle of the park, because he can't hold a candle to Callum's ability. So I always worry, like, are we wanting to sign him for the right reasons? But, you know, I'll take on board what a lot of other people are saying, that no, the laddie can play. And so on face value, that seems fair enough. But it seems you just don't know exactly which rumours to believe, or whether to just discount all of them. Like you say, 1 minute it's straight that, you know, he's talking to agents. The next minute it's like, no, the deal's dead. A minute later, the deal was never happening. You know, other times it's we don't even. Jordan Larson's not been at Parkhead since he was a wee boy and all this kind of thing. So, and you know, in this modern day world of social media, you know, lies and falsehoods, you know, can get round the world twice before truth's even had the chance to tie its shoelaces. So, yeah. You know, I've not tried to pay too much attention to all of it. If he was to come, we know he would get a great welcome and a great reception, and you know, but for what, you know, guys like John and stuff have kind of alluded to, he seems to be that he absolutely could be a success here. And I think the overwhelming majority of the support aren't daft enough to put the pressure of his dad's achievements on him. You know, he's his own man, he's his own player. It seems to be at the moment that it's not going to happen, but if it is, it might be basically just on the fact that Ange, he's not a player. His attributes don't fit Ange's system, but we just don't know. Agent Ramsey, brilliant. But yeah, listen, if he comes, great. But you know, I think if it doesn't, there's other options out there, so to speak. And as much as we wouldn't have to sign him in terms of a fee. You know, I think the agents and all that would work out that, you know, he'd be on a hefty wage. And I don't think, you know, we've spent big this summer. I know we've got the Champions League money banked, but you just can't be splashing the cash right, left, and centre. I think any extra monies that are spent now have got to be wise purchases. And if Ange doesn't think 100% that he'll fit in, then he won't be signed. Simple as that.
Yeah, agreed. Lucy, agreeing with you there, Tony. Definitely bang on. The merchandise would just be through the roof. But, and if you're coming for Russian football, you're no on pennies, are you? They pay fortunes out there, so it would have to be a big drop in wages anyway. But he was definitely in the city because I heard him he was getting fucked out of Gracie shouting, "You ken who my dad is" and all that. So he was definitely there running about. Stephen, what do you think? It would be beautiful if it was true and he came and he was successful and all the history that comes beyond it. But what was their thoughts? Like for me, like it would be great. I would love for him to come in if he fits in and he's talented enough. I would never ever once think like Tony's saying that he would have his father's history hanging on his shoulders and we would all be, he's his own man, he's his own player. To see Larsson in the back of a hoop shirt would be lovely to see again, right enough. But I can't comment because I've not seen much of him. So what was your first thoughts when we were linked with him anyway? Did you get excited and what were your thoughts?
I think if you could write a football love story, this would be it, wouldn't it? This would be up there with the best sellers. And before I come on that, Egyptian King makes a great point. Do you think Alan doesn't want Larsson because the media eyes will be on him and he doesn't want the squad distracted? There could be many different variables to a situation regarding that kind of transfer. But how I was feeling, I mean, we spoke about it, Franny was on as well. And I just watched the emotion in his face when just learning that Larsson, like his agent approached Celtic when Romano was tweeting that out and Anthony Joseph of Sky Sports, they were all kind of on that bandwagon. And you can see that little kid come back a wee bit, that kind of Larsson, Henrik for me and Henrik for everyone in this podcast, it just brings a smile to your face. And anything to do with him, you're like, yeah, bring him in. Yeah. Is he an amateur football player? That doesn't matter. Bring him on in. But as you said, like he's played in Russia. And I think me and John and stuff have spoken about it on the podcast chat. I think he was their top goal scorer for a couple of seasons, obviously before all this kicked off and the Ukraine and Russian type thing. And he got let go. He moved to Sweden last year, played on loan in the club he was at, can't afford him. So now he's free. I think for me personally, it should be a no-brainer. It's risk-free. And as Anthony said, merchandise would pay for itself. But then you have to kind of question yourself, is it an emotional signing or is it for the player? Granted, the player can play across three positions in the front three. He can play striker, left, right, attacking mid as well. He can do all that. We've seen it. But then you're linking it with the emotional thing. And I don't think there'd be the Larsson name. I think you're 100% right. You can't link it to that legacy. This is an individual in his own right from his dad. Leave that in the past. See what he can do. Let him build his legacy at Celtic Football Club. I was excited. I wanted it to happen regardless. Like I was going, get him in, just get him in, get him signed, get him through the doors. Could you imagine like the signing video? It'd be like crowns and all and thrones and just him appearing and it'd be absolutely incredible.
Crowns on a Celtic park.
No, I mean the King of Kings, like the King of like type thing. But it'd be absolutely incredible from a marketing ploy, from a social media ploy. It'd be absolutely top notch. But I think it's dead in the water now. I think it's past, but again, it was wishful thinking, and it didn't happen. If it does in the future, big thumbs up for me.
No, I think you're right. I think it seems like it is dead in the water. If it was even a goer to start with, to be honest with you, I don't believe a fucking word anybody says on the media side of things. We get linked to everybody, and we kind of touched on the whole the history and why he's linked. And for me, it's just lazy journalism. And it's similar. I'm going to go on to the next two that have been linked again this week. And it's Mr. Davies that snubbed us to go to Liverpool, which is fair enough. And Jason Denier's now a free agent as well, and that's getting thrown about. And yet again, it's so lazy. They've both had Celtic links in the past. Denier obviously was on loan at us for a while. It was a very successful period as well. May I add, he was very good when he was with us, in my opinion, anyway. Forged that great partnership with Van Dijk at the time, I think. And I think he's still on the Belgium national side and all the rest of it. So he's definitely got qualities. And the Ben Davis one, again, I think it's just because we were in for him last couple of years ago. I don't even think Andrew was in charge when we were last linked with him.
No.
I think it's just really, really lazy. And every time I see it, I don't even get excited about anything because I'm just like, it's just nonsense. Some journalist has come up with fabrication. He's seen somebody's on a free. Oh, he's got a history with Celtic. Let's print that. Both centre-halves. It looks like the media think we need another centre-half. Stephen clearly does. Anthony, do you? Tony, do you think we need to shore up in there? We need another body in there? Or do you think that our starting looks like CCV, Starfelt, and then we've got the likes of Julian and Welsh and then Bossen and back? Do you think that's sufficient backup for these guys, or do you think we need to move in the window and try and get somebody else in?
I think purely from a financial point of view, I think it'll very much come down to what happens with Julian. If it turns out that he's staying and he's want to fight for his place and he gets more game time, I think it'll be between him and Starfelt to go up against to play alongside CCV. I think that if Starfelt's not going to be fit for the opening game of the season, I think the centre half pairing will be Julian and CCV, provided Julian's still in the building. So if he's still around, I don't think we need to strengthen. I don't think numerically it would even make sense. But if he goes up, could obviously change things about. I mean, I know off-air Stephen's talking about getting Mugabe in for Motherwell. I think I would rather get Robert Mugabe. I trust him more, just to continue my, world leader despots, But I just think
you are a slime ball.
But I just think that I like Julian. I was on the show the night before the final game of the season last year when obviously the article got released, and I said, that might well be curtains, but he's still in the building. He's still playing. So that kind of tells you that that's not been the case, that Ange has went down. And even if he is just playing him to try and get him in the window, whilst he's still here, he can still feature. I still think at the moment the first choice pairing would be CCV and Starfelt when both are available. But I've not seen anything of Julian to suggest that he could not work well in an Ange side. To be perfectly honest, I mean, his brief cameo against Raith Rovers, I know we were 4-0 up at the time when he came on in the cup, and within 5 minutes on the group chat we were talking about just how much more. And I appreciate it's just Starfelt's style, but Julian just looks a whole lot more comfortable on the ball. So if he's still around, I don't think we need to strengthen. If he does leave, then I think, you would have to look to bring someone else in. But I think at the moment, probably a defensive midfielder would be higher on the pecking order of priorities.
I agree. I totally agree with everything you said. But there's been a bit of support for Stephen here, and I know he's going to have We've been on for an hour though, Stephen, so mind when this rant starts. It needs to end at some point before midnight tonight.
I know, because me and the missus have still to have more dinner, so...
I'm in agreement with Tony and whoever else said last week. I was screaming at the telly when you were having your rant last week, to be honest with you. I think that he totally fits Ange's style. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's coming out for the back. And I really don't understand where you're getting this lack of pace from, because I don't think he's any slower than Starfelt or... Ross doesn't do the disagreeing. He just sits back and watches the Tomlinsons go at it and then just puts his 2 cents in and then mic drops and walks out again. I don't understand the pace argument. I don't see it, because I don't think he's any slower than either of the two. I think he's the first season he was immense. I don't think he's... I said earlier about Turnbull as well. When you have a long-term injury, I think people forget their qualities because they've not been seeing them week in, week out, and it's straight away, West Ham are in with 10 million, let him go. No, why? He's a fantastic player. And I think the same with Julian. I agree with Tony. I think if he stays, I don't think we need to do any more dealings at centre-half, to be honest with you. I think him and Welsh are sufficient backups. I don't think you're going to get anybody in unless you're spending millions and millions and millions of pounds, 7+ more than we paid for Julian, if you're wanting to get somebody in to replace either Starfelt or CCV. So I think we're sufficient in that area. So I totally disagree with everything you're about to say, Stephen.
I mean, obviously, it's down to opinions. Everyone's entitled to it. That's fair enough. It's my opinion. I've went over it the last 2 weeks. Julian, for me, doesn't fit the style. He's too slow, too laboured. And again, I'll point to it. Ange wants players on the halfway line. One ball over the top, Julian's done. He has no recovery speed. Starfelt's far quicker. I don't know what matches you're watching. Starfelt is far quicker than Julian over 10 yards easy. Easy. That's my 2 cents on Julian. But in terms of what I'm feeling at the moment, the transfer activity, I have to admit I'm becoming a wee bit impatient. Yes, we've signed Jada and Carter Vickers. Brilliant signings, brilliant deals for the club. Great injection of kind of momentum and going forward. Burnaby's come in. Seagrass has come in. I know Made Hackney was signed this summer, but he was an obligation to buy. Apart from that, really quiet, to be honest. I still think we're lacking centre midfield area, as Anthony rightly said. a centre defensive mid. I think needs done, needs sorted. I think we can all see that. We've missed out on a few targets if we're led to believe, like Sousa, and I know we're linked to that wee guy Vieira from the Argentinian Juniors Football Club over in Argentina, obviously. I still think we need maybe, as William said, a third striker to come in. I don't know, possibly another winger as well, because you can't rely on Mikey Johnson in terms of injuries and things like that. So you have to account for all them kind of things that could happen throughout the season.
You don't want much, are you?
No, but I mean, you have to be honest. You have to be honest. I am a wee bit impatient. I think it's been relatively slow since the Burnaby signings were announced. I thought that was kind of a couple more coming in. No, Postecoglou said he's taking his time and stuff, but again, that's me being impatient. You know me by now. I'm impatient, and I'll say it.
Oh yeah,
that's how I'm feeling. But yeah, in regards to the rest of it, as we talked about, the pre-season camp was fantastic. We're back home tomorrow. All to look forward to.
Okay, this is my last point on Julian. Right, I'm like John. I want to know what you're basing this whole a ball over the top pace thing on. Is it 40 minutes of pre-season that he's played, or what are you basing this on that we've seen? Because we've not seen him since 2 or 3 years ago, and I never seen that when that was happening. And bearing in mind, Starfelt for the first 3 months of his Celtic career got caught with a ball over the top at least 7 times a game, and he's came into fruition. And once he got match fitness under it, and he was much better. So I just want to know what you're basing this Julian information on, because we've not seen anything of him in 2 years.
Well, I mean, we could have seen something of him at the turn of the year, but we didn't. So Postecoglou clearly sees something he's not quite keen on. I'm not pissing on Julian as a defender.
No, yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, you have. I think it's really unfair what you've been doing.
I'm basing this
because
I'm basing this.
If Ferdinand and Vidic,
you're going to talk over me, I can't talk.
Well, because you're not. Because I think you're being really unfair. If Ferdinand and Vidic were playing together and somebody came back for an injury and was outstanding, you're not going to break that pairing up when they've been playing unbelievable all season. When we're still going for however many titles or trophies, you're not going to break that pairing up for somebody to come back in.
But Julian wasn't part of that pairing. I know what you're trying to say, but Julian hasn't been near the squad in 2 years. We've done just fine. I don't like. For me, Postecoglou had a chance to read over him, look at him. Yeah, 100%. But he's back. He's back from injury. And what I've seen over the pre-season,
that's the point Wally's making.
That's what I'm making.
He's been out for over a year,
and
when he's came back and been fit, it's been in right in the business end of a season where you're going toe-to-toe with Rangers for 40 million quid in the title. You're not going to break up a defensive partnership to integrate somebody that's been out for a year. But that's what we're saying now, that it's pre-season. He's got more of a chance to shine.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. I appreciate that. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Exactly.
I believe it.
I know, Stephen, and we're entitled to ours. That's the fucking point of the debate. So you can't have a go. You can't have a go at me. John's right. Bring up all the Julian things that agree with you.
There's no one saying that Julian. There's no one saying anything right now.
But you can't go off your head and say something and say this is my opinion when I'm giving you my opinion and you disagree.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Right,
but I'm going to disagree with it.
And then you just said you're no pissing on his chips, and I said I think you're being unfair, and then you flew off like a fucking wee old granny that lost at the bingo. You need to calm your fucking ham, man. Jesus Christ!
If he wanted to see him, right, he would have given more minutes in pre-season. Regardless, I know he started the first game, but after that, it's been Carter Vickers and Welsh. That seems to be his preferred choice going forward. Obviously, 45 minutes apiece, but I can see that getting into the new season if Starfelt remains injured. What's the point of keeping a high earner on the wage bill if he's not getting a look in? Just drowning money out of the club. Let him go. Let him go to another club on loan or whatever. I'm basing my opinion on tactics, purely tactics. He does not have speed. He's like Shane Duffy in that sense. He doesn't have the speed to recover. Shane Duffy got found wanting in Europe. And I know you're going to point to that to and things like that. And 100% he scored vital goals. I'll always give him that in the League Cup. But it just happens this way. I just think it's natural progression. We'll let him go and move on.
No, that's fair enough. But you don't need to get your high wit when I'm asking you a question about it. Fucking hell, man.
Because I've been questioned for 2 weeks.
You got me a fucking.
Welcome to Friday Fight Night on Endless Celts.
I know, and at the start of it, you actually asked me to bring up Julian when I said I wasn't going to. You got more opinions on him than you have fucking Umbro t-shirts. Right. Anyway, what? Right, we've not even delved into the loan market yet. Do you think that's an option, boys, that we should be looking? Because obviously it was successful last year. We brought 2 guys in with the option to buy, and then I think there's something that we could appreciate that, mate. something that we could look at in the near future as well. But again, it's this whole, we get thrown in Sousa in midfield. Oh yes, let's get this guy. I'm like Conor McGregor. Who the fuck is this guy? Never heard of any of these guys, and everybody's raving, get them in, and we've lost it on him. Right, Vera's the next one. Who the fuck's this guy to? Everybody's ranting, and we've not even seen, and we don't even know if they're linked, just because Romano said that, who apparently is the fucking Mystic Meg, who told us Juranovic was away 2 weeks ago, and we've still yet to hear anything else, and he's one of the main mans in the strip promotion. But aye, to round off, I agree. I think we need a striker, a third striker, in case one of the guys gets injured up top. With tough tackling centre mid, but I totally agree with what Stephen's saying as well, is that we do need to get a few out the door.
Friday night SmackDown.
Stephen's Vince McMahon. You can't get a word in because it's his fucking show, and that's it.
Fuck off, Willie. Don't talk.
John, get in the comments. John, get in the comments. No, so what we're saying, a striker, CDM. Yeah, you don't get this in any other podcast. Wait, by the way, you should see our group chat. It's a bit more tastier than this. Aye, so Blackburn tomorrow. Hopefully we get, it's meant to be a decent crowd. Hopefully we get a lot of the big guns out there. Loads more goals. I'm pretty sure we'll concede as well, because that's the way it is. Lovely Scotchery a day as well. So enjoy your weekend, troops. That's us done. I'm not happy anymore. I'm away for
that's it before it turns into another Monday night war zone.
This
Friday night war zone.
This pint's getting. Don't feel sorry for Stephen.
Exactly. Don't fall into the trap, Teresa.
The only reason he gets a hard because he just has a total left field opinion to everybody else, and then doesn't understand why everybody disagrees with him. Big game tomorrow. I'm gonna go and take vodka through the eyeballs because that was fucking hard work. Stephen, the captain, I'll let you fire in with the old Bruce Forsyth number and finish us off. Cheers, troops.
Thanks very much. I just want to say again, thanks everyone for watching. I mean, the interaction has been great. Lots of comments coming in. I have not ignored any comments at all about pro Julian comments before I get abuse for that. I just didn't.
Well, listen, getting the golf club out and everything. Now he's ready for a square goal.
But what I will say, thanks again to the guys who became members of the podcast. It's an absolute for everyone.
That, man.
99p a month. Just get on it if you can. It's just brilliant for the channel. Brilliant. And thanks for the support. We're over 1k. We smashed it. And to everyone who's watching along, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.